Okay.
Let's see. How's that? Does that work?
Yes.
I hope that's working. Tell me if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yes,
great.
we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maya. Thank you, Gina. Yes, perfect. You know, it's always something with this technology. I have to tell you, always something. So tonight, I'm really excited. I'm glad to see you all here. Let me move a little bit closer to the mic. Maybe I'll put it in my hands. I wanted to start this evening off um, with a poem by Langston Hughes. It's called Dream Deferred. Hopefully, you all are familiar with this poem, but this is just a little homage to Black History Month and to the context of this conversation. So, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up and fester? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun and fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? And so tonight, the conversation that we're going to be having really is going to lean into the idea that we have dreams that we have deferred, and there's still an opportunity to go after those dreams. There's still an opportunity to identify for yourself these joys and moments to rediscover and revive our past dreams. And so that is what I'm hoping this conversation will be. And I'm hoping that we'll all be able to engage in this conversation. Before I get fully started, I just want to introduce you all to the channel. Um, my name is Dr. Davia. Welcome to Not All the Things. This is a space for success driven, mature women of color. This is a space where we talk about work life balance, wellness, and wine. And tonight is definitely a wellness conversation. I'm really excited to be joined by two of my sister friends here. And so I am so glad that they are here. So I want to bring them into the space with me. And listen, I got bells and whistles just as long as it all works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But I would love for you all to introduce yourselves and just um, tell me a little bit about, just introduce yourself. Tell me about why you think tonight or today or this season is the appropriate time for this conversation. Why this conversation now?
Yeah.
Sister Jira,
Uh,
you want to start?
yeah, I'm Najira Pearson Mutis. I'm a licensed clinical social worker within New York and New Jersey. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think this is a timely conversation, especially as we're entering 2025. Not only thinking about how we may be able to thrive,
Mm,
right, personally or professionally, but what are the things that we need to revive? And so, several days into the year, we can all attest to the fact that things are changing around us. And
mhm,
so, as opposed to focusing on the macro, what are the micro things
mhm.
that we can really focus in on and feel fulfilled, feel a sense of joy and contentment? And so, I think that this is a great discussion to have in that vein.
Great. Thank you. Sister Terry.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Davia. Thank you, Najira, for allowing me to share space with you tonight to discuss us. in the sisterhood. I think right now the question that you posed is very timely, in addition to what Najira said about the times that we're living in and all of the big feelings that surround these times that we're in. I think that now, more than ever, women are releasing themselves from feeling like they need permission
Mm,
to take care of self and to prioritize themselves. I think now, kind of, just to put it plainly, I think the reins are off for all of us. I think that we're coming into a time and space where we realize that we need to self prioritize. And I'm happy to delve into that because I think that's just where we are.
great. Thank you so much. Let's see who we have in this space. I know who was first today. Uh, yes, Fly Like Me, PhD. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. And we have Gina is here. Yes, Gina, how are you? And we have, hey, Tia. Tia is here. Hello. And we have Kim. Thank you, Kim, for showing up. First time signed in. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Yes, 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 Dr. Maya. If you all want to learn more about Langston, she will be having a video about him and other Black leaders next week. Fly Like Me, PhD. So if you are not subscribed to her channel, if you're not subscribed to my channel, and you're here, please make sure you subscribe. And if you think that somebody would like this conversation, please share it with them, because the more knowledge we have, the more empowered we can be when we are just trying to stay focused and just do our daily work and just be on our everyday grind. So I'm glad to see you all here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, we have someone else. Hey, Kadish. How are you? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. 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 Yeah. So, one of the ways in which I've been thinking about this idea of reconnecting and rediscovering and reviving is by just taking a step back. I'm always starting with reflection. I'm always thinking that the way we do anything is to reflect and reassess where we are. And so that might be that we have to take a step back and just not look at where we are in a deficit, but be able to say, I am where I am, and it's where I need to be right now. But I had this moment to really check back in with things that I used to love to do, and sometimes I do it through journaling. Sometimes I do it by still playing it out, um, but playing it out on a smaller scale and really trying to start to reflect and interrogate that. And so I wonder how you all think about what are the ways in which you begin to revive and really think about reassessing those missing private parts that you kind of haven't checked into in a while.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to think about purpose.
Mm,
And if you're in community with me, you've heard me talk about ikigai, right? And the Japanese phrase and thought process about the connection to our sense of purpose and our holistic wellness, right? And so one of the things I think we need to begin asking ourselves is, what has historically brought me joy, peace, excitement, or this sense of purpose, this connection to, right, my inner self, where I feel or have felt fulfilled. And I think so often as women, we take on other identities through the lifespan: caretaker, mother, wife, girlfriend, entrepreneur, businesswoman, boss, right? And we have a way of making all of these things, right, seem like they are the most important. And what happens is we tend to neglect ourselves, right? And so the identities then become all of who we are, all encompassing. And the
mm,
question is, well, who were you before you were any of that?
mm,
Before there were labels placed upon you?
mm.
What were the things that brought you joy? And I think that's a really good place to begin to explore as we seek to think about what we can revive.
I love that. What were the things that brought you joy? I love that. And I feel like that's one that we can all, as we sit here in this conversation, what were those things? And either why did we not pursue them? I mean, before we even got started, I said to the ladies, I thought I was going to be a dancer. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be a dancer. My grandmother had me dancing at 5 years old, and I get all the way to 18, and it's, I think, okay, I'm applying to college. And even in high school, she was like, oh, no, no, you can't do that. You got to look for a real job. It's like, a real job? Dancing is a real job in my belief. So I loved that. I loved the arts. I loved that experience, but I got to enjoy it as a child, but it was never, it was almost like that's not an option for you. And so I put it to the side in that way. Yeah. Yeah. Sister Terri.
Um, I think that when you talk about reflection, I was just sitting here thinking about that. And I think that we all reflect. I know that we all reflect daily. All of us, we do, whether we're realizing it or not. But I think that we need to also be mindful about intentionally reflecting, not just letting our minds operate in this constant cycle of stream of consciousness where thoughts are just hitting us left and right, especially right now where, a lot of people are present on social media, obviously, the workspace, what's going on with family. We're always like besieged with things that we're thinking about. But I think that for us as women, as professionals, as mothers, as friends, as daughters, I think that it's very important that we become more intentional about the way in which we're reflecting. So just like you mentioned, Dr. Davia, journaling is an important thing. I know that journaling may not be an exercise that everybody necessarily can get into or wants to get into, but I think that, in shaping our mindset about some of the things we can do, maybe, you have a mindset that journaling is all about sitting down with a book, filling out an entire page, and then turning it over and do the next page. When in actuality, you could write a one sentence journal. You could write a one word journal. It doesn't have to be in an actual physical journal. It can be in your phone, in a note. There are many apps that have journal apps. I also like to do what I call photo journaling, where I don't necessarily have it in me to sit down and fill out a whole page of a journal. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't have the mental space and the capacity to do that, but I want to chronicle what I felt in that day. So maybe I saw a
Right.
beautiful sunset. I take a picture of it. I can look back. What was I doing last week at this time, and see that sunset in my photo album and call to mind what I was feeling, what was coming up for me. So I think that in giving ourselves grace, I think that part of that grace is allowing ourselves to kind of shape shift what we've always been told is the right way to do something and figure out what is the right way to do something for ourselves.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yes, I appreciate
I
that.
love that. And I just want to add, because as you're talking, Terry, I'm just sitting here taking it all in, and I'm thinking about, right, reimagining journaling. And I recall, because I'm not a journaler, but I do keep a notebook by my
Mm-hmm.
bed because I will often brain dump. And
Mm-hmm.
so before I go to bed, just writing down things that have come up for me throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day, right? Without a formal paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
just releasing what came up. And then also capturing my dreams, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes the subconscious speaks to us when we're sleeping. And so we get ideas or inspiration. And that's another way, right? To capture that and to reimagine what journaling looks like. Just allowing yourself the opportunity to
Yeah.
capture in a way that works for you
For
what is
you.
coming up, what your body,
Exactly.
what your mind is trying to tell you. It's
Mm-hmm.
information.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, I appreciate both of you saying that it works for you in the way that it works for you, right? It's
Yeah.
not journaling has to be, I have this day journal, I have to keep it with me, I have to write every night, I have to write a page. It's that's a old traditional way that
Mhm.
doesn't serve you. If it doesn't serve you, you use your photo and you take a
That's
picture.
right.
Or you can even do audio notes. I love to do
That's
voice memos
right.
Yep.
and try to remind myself of things and try to capture things. So, I know in a past video that I have, one of the things that I talk about is there's an app. If you happen to have an iPhone, not everybody has an iPhone, I get it, but it's a journal app. Some people are PC people. I'm good. But the journal app will give you a reminder if you say I want to
Mhm.
journal 3 times a week, or I want to journal, and it just gives you a little tap, like, hey, you want to journal today? You can do it or not, but it reminds you that, oh, take a moment.
Exactly.
And so I do think and appreciate the fact that one of the ways, and I hear you all saying, for us to revive and to really get back to or start to interrogate is to figure out a way to reflect and to reimagine, and not just reflect, to be intentional in our reflection, right?
Yeah.
To be intentional in our reflection. I have to say hello to my daughter who is in the house. She says, hi, mama. So, hi, Marley girl. And she is a true journaler. She is journals, outside journaling, capturing. And so I know that she works a lot of her stuff out that way. And I see Annika's in the house. Hi, ladies. Hi, Annika. The whole crew is here. And yes, hey, Q Styles. Yes. So I just want to say thank you all. Oh, yes. Okay. Hi, Dr. Crystal. I love daily journaling. It's my happy place with a great big paper journal and a
Oh,
beautiful pen.
yeah.
Yes, there
Hmm.
is nothing like the right tools. I
Yeah.
know it might be quirky, but nothing like a good pen or a good marker
Hmm.
or just something that you can, feel. Something with weight. I mean, that's for me. Something with color.
But I think there's something, right, that we can take from this as you're talking about the tools and environment, right? What is the environment that creates an opportunity for you to be with yourself, for you to be present with yourself, to tap in, to
Right,
hone into
right,
what is below the surface, right? And so for some people, that's in nature. For
right.
some people, that can be in their bathtub, right? But I think another piece of this, as we're getting an opportunity to reflect and to
Yeah,
reimagine intentionally,
yeah,
right, is recognizing that the environment is important. For me, being home in the midst of all of the things, that's not where I'm going to be able to do my work.
right, right.
Exactly. I have to say something to
No,
that, Najira.
please.
That is so true. So I didn't do this. I'm sorry, Dr. Davy, in the beginning, but I'm a professor and I'm also a writer. I'm a freelance writer, and right now I'm working on my manuscript. And just talking about or piggybacking off of what you just said, Najira, about environment being such an important uh, catalyst for us when we know we're entering a certain space. Um, for me, writing, when I write, not journaling, but when I'm doing like my serious writing, when I'm working on a piece or working on my manuscript, and I know like I have to be fully immersed in what it is that I'm doing. Like you just said, Najira, it won't work for me if those are the hours that my son is home. If
Right,
I'm forced to because I'm up against a time deadline or something,
right.
that's different. But if I have the luxury of time, I have a specific candle that I light
Mm,
when I'm doing my serious writing. I
mm,
have a specific place in the house that I sit when I'm doing my serious writing.
mm-hmm.
Um, I also shut down everything so that I cannot, everything goes
Mm,
on do not disturb so that I cannot be disturbed. So going back to what we were just talking about, intentionality, I'm not only being intentional with what is the aim of what I'm doing, whatever the
mm-hmm,
piece is,
mm-hmm.
working on the manuscript, whatever,
Right.
but I'm also being intentional about setting up my space, setting up my surroundings so that they are the most conducive possible to fostering and prioritizing what it is that I need to do. So absolutely, I'm so glad you said that, Najira, because it's so true.
Yeah. A lot of folks are agreeing. A lot of folks are agreeing in this conversation. Um, the right pen and paper, small delights. But I think
Yeah.
the important thing is when you can't find any time for self and you're trying to figure out what you want to tap into, you may not be able to do it in your normal environment. That's what I hear you all saying. You may have to put yourself in a space or create a space that will allow you to be able to hear yourself, to be able to listen to yourself, and to be present for the thoughts that you really haven't really had a chance to kind of interrogate. And so you may not be able to do it at home. I heard you say it's not going to work if the house is full and the kids are home, or if your son is home and you can't attend. There's, I know myself, and I know I work better either early in the morning, which I'm not a morning person, but I know if I want peace, I got to get up a little bit earlier so I can just catch the silence, as crazy as that sounds, but to catch it and be able to use that as a time to be like, okay, I got to get something done. Or I'm the late night, the late night creature that waits until like 12, 1, and then I'm in a zone, and then I can just go. And I find for me, I'm a very slow writer. And so if I was working on something, it's going to take me time, and I'm going to be reworking it and reworking it. And so I need time to think. But I think what I hear all of us saying is making sure we create the space and the environment to hear ourselves so that we can begin to have that space to tap into that joy that we had. It may not be there now, but it used to be there. And so where is it and how do we get at it? Yeah. Yeah. I heard you say, Najira, something around having small micro goals as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to something big. Can you talk a little bit more about those small micro goals?
Yeah. Kind of thinking about and referencing how people may be experiencing things right now. There's a lot of noise,
Hmm.
right? And so oftentimes we are distracted by the noise and all of the things, right? And timely enough, we're saying not all the things. And that's what I'm also saying, right? Let's
Yeah.
take moments to be intentional, and as opposed to thinking about all of the big things in our lives that we could tackle, might want to
Right.
do, or
Right.
feel nervous about, what are the small incremental things that we can focus on? And so in psychotherapy, we talk about locus of control, right? I can't focus on everything outside of my sphere of control. But
Mm-hmm.
if I can just focus on pouring into myself, creating space for grace, meditating, journaling, prayer, getting out in nature, right? All of the things we're talking about today. If I can just focus incrementally on those things, then I start to feel empowered. I start to feel as if I'm in control of what's happening in my world. And that's what we want to do. It's a shift from focusing on the macro to the things that I can control. And right now, we're talking about those goals,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those reviving the
Mm-hmm.
aspects of ourselves that we may have neglected. And, prior to us launching, we were talking about the idea that the poem is so poignant. Because when we don't take care of ourselves, when we have neglected aspects of ourselves that
Mm-hmm.
are important, it does feel like a sore, right? That
Yeah.
grows infected and crusts over. And we don't want to let that happen. We want to nurture, we
Right.
want to care for ourselves in the same way that oftentimes as women, we care for everyone else outside of ourselves. And so let's reflect back on ways that we can tend to ourselves in a very gentle and nurturing way, and honoring the things that are important, focusing on the micro, the things we can control.
Yeah. Yeah. The things we can control, and having manageable, smaller steps to kind of get at it, right? And so even maybe capturing 5 to 10 small little steps to whatever the thing is that you might be, what you had an interest in before, maybe even just brainstorming, just a free brainstorm to just get some ideas down, but not trying to attack the whole thing, right?
Right.
I'm not going to be a dancer. But I'm gonna still enjoy myself in dance. I'm still gonna enjoy that, and I'm gonna have the spirit of dancing, the spirit of that, and use that in my conversations with you all, right? So I'm still going to hold on to that dream and use it in a different way, right? And so I feel like that's what you can do. You can take the one, smaller thing as opposed to a really large thing. That's
And
my thing.
reimagine it, right? So I might
And
not
reimagine.
be at City Center with Ellie. However, I might plan once a month going out with my girls and dancing, right? Or participating in an exercise workout that
Mhm.
incorporates forms of dance that align with me, right? That bring me a sense of joy, from ballroom dancing to salsa, right? To jazz or hip hop. And so you get to reimagine what that is and what that looks like at this stage of your life.
I love that.
Yeah, I totally agree, ladies. And I think that also, um, I think especially for us women who are ambitious and, we're handling our families and we're handling our careers, I think that we tend to lean more toward the side of overload, like feeling
Mhm.
like, okay, let me put on the cape. I have this to do. I have that to do. I have this. I'm going to do it all. And
Right.
I think that that's another area where we need to relieve ourselves of that particular burden. So, one day it came to me. I always keep a to-do list. That's just how I'm built. And I looked at the page one day and I was like, this to-do list has like 10 things on it. Like, even if I was to do one thing an hour, that's
Right.
10 hours of thing doing. And is
Right.
that really
Right.
realistic, right?
I think.
So I really started going back to that word intentionality, becoming more intentional about scaling back that to do list. Now, I purposefully tailor my to do list with three things and three things only. There are certain things that are going to be part of the routine of my day,
Right.
get my son to school, pick him up. Those things don't count. But
Right.
like, what are the three major things that I need and want to get done today, right? And I always make sure that there's something personal on there for me. So I know that I feel better and I operate in a better mental space when I do some type of activity. I'm a walker. I could walk from here to wherever. I love to walk. And I use it as a walking meditation oftentimes, which is why I can walk for so long, unbothered, unaffected, feeling so good. I just plug it in and I'm gone.
Right.
But I need to do something physical. I need to do something that feeds my spirit. So I bought one of those little walking pads because I
Uh-huh.
said, before I invest in a treadmill, I want to make sure that I'm committed.
Right.
So I made a smaller monetary investment
Right.
to make sure that I stay the course. I stay the course, I go a step up, and then I
Right.
reward myself with an actual real life treadmill, right?
Right.
Spirituality every day starts with prayer right in and from my bed.
Mm.
Doesn't have to be an hour long prayer, just something for me to center myself and prepare myself for everything that's out there.
Mm.
Meditation, the same thing. I use the Headspace app. Why do I use an app? Because I feel like, again, if I make a monetary investment in
Right.
something, knowing I'm paying for the subscription, I feel a little more motivated to show up to do it for 10 minutes, right?
Right.
And then, of course, the third thing, always my writing. Every day, I'm not going to put 1,000 words on the page. I give myself the grace to know every day will look different. Maybe one day I have it in me to write 500 words on a page, or 1,000 on an even better day. But there are some days where I only have the capacity to get 50 to 100 words down. And that's okay. That's an accomplishment, because the next day when I show up, I have a starting point as opposed to having nothing on the
Right.
page and
Right.
trying to reinvent the wheel. So,
Right. Right. I definitely hear you. I have to show this because, oh my God, I stay with the to-do list and I have a
mhm.
list for the list. We have problems when we have the list has a list, right? And then we have, oh yes, fly like me. I make lists in my sleep. We are doing way too much.
Can I
Too
just
much.
add something? Because I was
Please.
watching, I follow Kier Gaines on Instagram,
Uh-huh.
and he shared that he uses Chat GTP. and he uploaded his to-do list on ChatGTP and said, "Help me, figure out how to accomplish all of these things today." And the machine said, "You cannot. There
No
is
way.
no way. There is no
Wow.
way that you can meet those goals today." And that
Mhm.
was so profound for me because, to
That's
your
Mhm.
point,
crazy.
Terry, we're operating in overload. We have these
Overload.
expectations, we have the pressure, and
Hmm.
the machine is telling us, the computer is
The
saying,
computer
It's
said,
not
that is
possible.
not reasonable for a human being. And so it allows us to then, once again, restructure and
That's right.
reimagine how we are interpreting our
Mhm.
capabilities, right? The use of our time. And I love how you listed the three things that you focus on, because I'm sure for many of
Mhm.
us on our to do list, taking care of ourselves or a personal aspect is what's missing.
That's
And
right.
so I think that it's important to highlight, especially as we're trying to revive,
right.
Yes.
those aspects about ourselves that we may have neglected.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, Gina. AI knows, even if we don't know, AI knows that we have making too many list on list, and we're not being reasonable, just as humans, as women, as humans. We're trying to put way too much on.
Too
And,
much.
I partly launched this YouTube channel because I feel like I'm around so many women who are boss in what they do, and they just keep adding on to the top. And I just kept thinking, dude, not all the things. Like, we can't keep doing all the things. I'm halfway. I'm more than halfway at this point, right? I don't know if I'm going to get to 100, but I'm definitely closer
Mhm.
to that than I am, being a newborn. And so this 55 plus, we can't. It's just not enough. And I love the fact that as we're trying to revive and think about where we find our joy, if we start to look at the list and we see on there that we have professional, 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 and nothing personal, nothing spiritual, nothing that feeds us, then we're definitely not going in the right direction, right?
Mhm.
We are not doing what we need to do for ourselves. So I hope, again, if just for the folks who are here now and maybe the future folks watching, take some time to reassess and look at that list and say, what do I have on this list, on list, on list, and how much of it is really manageable, and how is it bringing me joy, right? Where's the joy in that? Some of it is just stuff that we got to get done. That's what I heard you say for sure.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So I was wondering how you all think about creating either support or inspiration for
Mm.
returning and reviving back to this space that we're looking to tap into. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think one of the things that I've been able to recognize about myself through my journey is where I get inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I spoke about my dreams. I'm an avid dreamer. And so taking inventory of things that come up for me in my sleep. But one of the other aspects that comes up for me is through community, right? And so being around other women who are operating on a high vibrational plane,
Yeah.
who are tending to or doing their work, sharing their journey, people who are supporters. When I am in community with other women, I gain inspiration. And so this is an interesting caveat, because being in community with other women who are working through not doing all the things, you tend to glean, right, information, resources, and an understanding of yourself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I really have benefited from being in community with other women. That has been a source of inspiration for me. And a sisterhood is everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I I feel like this word is like stuck on my forehead tonight. But again, intentionality. So um, I would, when you raised the question, I thought of the same thing Najira was saying. Community is so important, and I feel like we only have so many hours in the course of a day. Where, let me speak for myself. I feel like who I choose to spend time with is who I choose to spend time with. And I no longer have the bandwidth to be the bandwidth or the desire, quite honestly, to be everyone's friend, to be everyone's to be everyone's point of contact. And there was a time in my life, I'll readily admit that, like, I was misavailable. Oh, you want me to go out with you? Fine. Oh, you want to talk on the phone? I'm there. Oh, you need me for this? Fine. You need a what? But no more. Like, I'm very, first of all, I barely answer the phone. I'm just, I'm going to put that out there right there. Like, text me. Text me, because I don't have the energy for like conversations that are hours long like I used to when I was younger. I have things to do. I have my son to tend to. At the end of the day, after teaching and lecturing and talking all day long and interfacing, I just don't have it in me. So um, the people who I consider like my close network of friends are people who I really want to be friends with, people who I really love, people who I really have a high regard and respect for, and I feel like they pour into me and I can pour into them. I'm definitely not on that no new friends thing, but I definitely am on new being selective with who becomes a new friend. And it's okay to call ourselves acquaintances. It's okay to call ourselves co-workers. We're not meant to be friends with everyone. We're not meant to share space and time with everyone. And I think that we're well within our rights to be very selective about who we call community, who we want to be in community with. I'm surrounded by people who are writers who I feel so inspired by. I love their work. I respect them. I learn from them. Some of them are my friends, some of them are colleagues and acquaintances, but they mean something to me, right? No more am I just like idly over here, over there, connecting with this person or that person. I'm very, very intentional with whom I'm spending time and sharing space with.
Listen, mic drop. That's it. I mean, I think, as we're trying to revive, we have to really protect our peace as we're doing this. And
Yep.
as we're trying to search for things, we need to also think about who we're putting in our space, right? And who are we surrounding ourselves with, and who is giving us and feeding us. And so, yeah, everything you all said, I was in the back. I'm like, okay, write that down, write that down. I can't even type fast enough. I'm like, you have to, yes, you are right. Yes, Dr. Maya, you have to learn that lesson the hard way. You can't be there for everyone. The more you are spending out, the more you can't receive, right? We're always giving, we're giving. It's our nature to give. And so, yes, definitely have to think about who we are putting in our circle and how we are spending these really precious hours, because these hours go before you know it, it's the next day. Those 24 hours need to be spent with the right set of energy and people. Absolutely. We have to prioritize. I'm not going to really talk more about this now, but in a future conversation, I want to bring up the fact that if you um, don't have a mentor, you need to have a mentor in your life that can help you see. Sometimes the mentor sees things for you that you don't see for yourself. Um, I did my dissertation on mentorship and the importance of mentorship for Black women, Black superintendents, Latino superintendents, and how that helps them on their career trajectory. And so I definitely want to have a conversation around mentors, and how mentors can really help you in your wellness journey, if you allow them to see for you something that you can't dream for yourself. And so I definitely wanted to just add that because as we're talking about that community, sometimes it's a sister friend, sometimes it's a husband, sometimes it's a partner, sometimes um, sometimes it's your mentor,
Yeah.
and it's that person who can see something and go, "Oh, I know that you have an interest in this. I'm a I'm gonna push you in that direction, and you might not even go in that direction." So, thank you, Terry, for saying that because it reminded me that I definitely wanted to put that out there.
And I want to just add to that because I think, in the conversation about mentorship, the idea of supporters, I think the concept that people are speaking your name in rooms that you're not in is important, that people are looking to bring you up and to support your goals, right? And not just give you information, but
Yes,
really invested in your success. And
yes,
so I think that it's phenomenal when you're able to be in community with mentors and
and
supporters
support us,
for your
and
journey. Yeah.
support us. Yeah, we definitely, I definitely want to have that conversation because I've never had a sponsor or had that I know of. Maybe they were sponsoring me and I didn't know that they were. But that idea of a mentor or a sponsor or a supporter or someone who is working on behalf of you and you not even you didn't even know they were doing it can really help you grow in so many ways. So yeah, I would love for us to think about having that conversation. um, One other thought that I just wanted to put out there is one of the things that I think we need to do as we try and find this dream deferred is to tell ourselves a different narrative, is to
Yeah.
rewrite that story. And I wonder if we all, if you all could kind of talk a little bit about how or some ways that we can begin to rewrite that narrative that we have, or that we've been playing about why we can't do this thing or how it's too late for us to, I don't know, go back to school or whatever the story or the narrative is. How do we get underneath that and start to tell a different story?
I think one way to kind of get a handle on that is thinking about um, really thinking about and considering what we're feeding ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is um, when I got, just by way of example, when I got my MFA, I got my MFA at a time where I was a single parent. I still am a single, divorced single parent, where I was middle aged. I was the oldest person in my class at the time. I was in my mid 40s at the time. Um, I was working full time. Point being, in every way, I was like no one to the left or the right of me. Now, had I listened to my bad self, so to speak, or my negative self, let me
Right.
label it that way, I wouldn't have even attempted to get an MFA. But I knew that writing was something that I always wanted to do, always. From when I was a little girl, I was a
Mm-hmm.
voracious reader. I knew that I wanted to be a writer, and I probably would have been a writer sooner if and I love my mom dearly. Shout out to my mom, but if she didn't kind of track me onto, okay, you need to, your options are three: doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's it. Don't want to hear anything else. I'm paying the tuition.
I know.
Pick one, and that's what it's going to be.
That's
And for
right.
me, I pursued the route of getting a law degree.
Right.
That was never something that I truly, in my heart of hearts, wanted to do. I always wanted to write books, to be a writer. It took me all the way into my 40s to muster up the courage to say, you know what, Terri? Uh, you're going to start living for you. Like, you've done what your mom wanted you to do. You followed the straight and narrow track. Now it's time for you to really address and do what it is that what you want to do. And
Right.
it came at a time that looked like a time that I would never imagine. I already
Mm-hmm.
told you what my circumstances were,
Right.
but that was me beginning to rewrite my story, so to speak, to change that narrative of
Right.
who I have known myself to be all of these years and step more into the light of becoming who I in my heart always knew
Right.
that I was. And I think that, going back to your earlier point about reflection, I think this is an exercise that we have to participate in every day with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to question ourselves every day about who we are, what we want, what is important to us, not what society says should be important to us, not what members of our family expect from us. Of course, we have to do certain things in that regard, but we also have to create space for living the life that we want to live and the life that will make us most fulfilled. Who knows? In a few years, I may want to do something else, and that's okay. I think that is where we have to allow ourselves the space, the consideration, the grace to say, for me, this is what it looks like at this in this season. In another season, it may look like something else,
It may look different.
but we may look different, but we'll never get to those places if we're not constantly engaging in um, reflection with ourselves, questioning who we are, where we are. We'll never get there if we're not constantly engaging in some type of self interrogation of who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah. Hold 1 second. Let me see if I can get this light together. Hold on 1 second.
That was really poignant, Terry. A lot of what you said, is really resonating with me about the idea of us having to ask ourselves some key questions.
Yes.
And I think that that's pivotal through all of this. The theme is just
Mm-hmm.
being able to reflect
Mm-hmm.
and to take inventory of. And one of the things, not to go on without you, Dr. Davia,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
don't want to lose this
That
thought.
worked. I
But one
did.
of the things, as you were talking, that was
Sorry.
coming up for me is the idea of whose voice is this,
Nope.
right? And so as I hear the no, I can't, the time is not right, I shouldn't, it's not possible. Well, whose voice is that,
Right.
right? Is that your
Right.
voice, or is that the voice of, my grandmother who didn't have the same vision, opportunities, or resources? Is that the voice of, someone from another generation coming from a
Mm-hmm.
perspective that we can't do things because we were told we couldn't do things,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
this intergenerational process, and sometimes the trauma that is passed down from one generation to another, it lands with us, and we
Right.
begin to internalize what was told. And so the question is, whose voice is this? And is
Mm.
this fear of success or fear of failure? And sometimes the fear of success is paralyzing for people, because what if
Mm-hmm.
this does work out? What does this mean for my life? Right? And
Yes.
we don't talk about that enough. And so really assessing what's going on here that I'm
Yes.
putting myself out. Recently, I have put myself out here for a few things, and things that I may not have done, in previous points in
Yep.
my life.
Yep.
And
Yes.
I started to internalize the you shouldn't. What if somebody thinks this way? What if
Mm-hmm.
somebody feels this way? And I told myself, I said, Najira, no, because right now, nobody counted you out. You're counting you out.
Right.
So
Right.
until you're told no, let's lean in.
That's
Let's
right.
lean in. I love it. Light's not working. We ain't gonna worry about it. If Dr. Maya's still here, she'll understand. When we had our session, I had a full blackout. I changed outlets. It was a full blackout. We just keep it moving. So
We keep
I
it
am.
moving.
I listen. This is what we do. We keep it moving. This conversation around whose voice is this, and what if it's so good when we get it, we're scared of it. Oh, that is so real. That is
Mm-hmm.
so real, because you just don't know how amazing something could be. And just all that self talk is like, no, no, no. And the truth of it is, it's the fear keeping us from going after something, or keeping us from taking a step, or keeping us from trying something. So that one, I'm gonna have to just sleep on and kind of really dig into, because sometimes it's not the voice of success. It's I'm sorry, it's not the voice of it's not going to happen, but it is the success that's keeping us.
Mm-hmm.
That is a powerful one. That is a powerful one. And so, my last thought around ways in which we can revive and revisit this joy really stems from what's that first step? Bold, and I'm going to use the term imperfect action one can take, right? What
Mm-hmm.
can we do to push towards this step that we know we need to move?
Yeah.
Any ideas?
I would say, we have to be honest with ourselves.
Mm,
We have to be gentle.
mm,
And we, once again, just have to lean in. And so it might be uncomfortable. There may be, some stress around what that would feel like. But I think one of the things we want to do is to identify what a pitfall or a barrier might be and remove it,
mm, mm,
right? So if I'm telling myself I don't have time, I want to recognize that it's the internal
mm,
narrative and the
mm,
perception around time that's a barrier for me. And so, how do I proactively cultivate, carve out, or curate a half an hour from
mm,
my day to take that next step, those micro goals, right? Focusing on what I can control. So just being honest with ourselves, being gentle, but acknowledging where the pitfalls and the barriers may be, and then working to remove the barrier so that we can take one step closer to honoring ourselves, because that's what this is really about.
Right. Totally agree. I think also, and this is tying into what you were just sharing, Najira, which is so true. I think that as we spoke about creating the environment that helps to push us into the area of what it is that we want to do, I think that we have to also consider our inner environment, meaning
Mm,
what's going on inside of us. I've been
mm,
having so many I've been having so many big feelings lately about, as I'm sure we all have, about a lot of things. And I'm I'm realizing that, like, the capacity that I had a few months ago, I
mm,
don't have in this season right now. And that may change. But um I'm one thing that's becoming crystal clear to me is that overwhelm and rest, pretty much a lack of rest, excuse me, overwhelm and lack of rest almost disables me. It
mm,
leaves me unmotivated, it leaves me unfocused. um, Disruption or chaos does the
right,
same thing to me for me. And now I think that I'm becoming more mindful about creating the environment within myself
yeah,
mm,
that will
mm,
promote and allow me to be my best self. So
mm,
I know I have to get at least 6 hours of sleep. We all operate differently with that, but for me, I can operate decently on 6. If I'm less than that, I know, that seam is going to start unraveling a bit. If I'm not moving, if I'm not walking, or
mm,
I was going to Pilates avidly at one point, doing something for my physical. I
right,
know things might get a little bit wonky and a little bit haywire. I was at a point where I was checking emails like around the clock. I have now stopped that.
mm,
Now I have a hard stop with email at like about 7 o'clock, right? And I let my students know that, like, you will not hear from me
right,
until the next day
right,
if it's after 7. On the weekends, unless it's an emergency, you will not hear from me. Um, Also, especially in this season that we're in, I have to really be mindful about my input.
right,
I can't be on social media the way that I was able to be on it in prior times. There's just too much negativity. There's too many things causing me anxiety about what will happen. I'm not trying to say that I believe in necessarily staying in a space of unawareness,
right,
but I also
right,
have hard cutoff times to how much I'm digesting on the news, how much I'm getting from this source, how much I'm getting. It's not that continuous cycle of just being barraged with information and everyone's ideas and everyone's opinions and everyone's wants. Now I'm really implementing kind of like blockages to certain things that can really cause chaos and disruption in my inner environment, which is where everything operates from. Nothing gets done if I'm not operating at capacity in here and up here.
Yes. Monitor the space and your time in a way so that you protect yourself from something that is going to dysregulate you and keep you from being able to tap into any of those thoughts and dreams and ideas that you want to go after is
Absolutely.
very powerful for people to hold true for themselves, um, and to really lean into, in a way that if we're not thinking about making sure our inner self is well, of course we can't do anything. We can't tap into anything, and we continue to go and not work on our inner self. So that is really important to kind of lift for us for sure. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. The one thing that I will add is for people to just start somewhere. Do something small, reflect, lean in, go to the roller skating class if you want to roller skate, go take the pottery lesson, stop making excuses. It's not too late. Whatever the narrative is, change the narrative. Ask yourself who's saying that, but do something. It can be, and the reason why I wanted to use the word imperfect, take an imperfect action. Just take the step, right? So just coming on these YouTube streets and saying, all right, I'm going to just start having these conversations and folks will come. That's my imperfect action to kind of getting this momentum that I know will come, because I know I needed a space like this to kind of be in community, and I know there are other people who need a space like this where we can come together and talk and share and learn from each other. So I thank you both, ladies. I don't know if there are any final questions or any final statements that you all want to make. Let me know.
I think, we've had a lot of wonderful takeaways today. Through it all, I'm just gonna say be gentle with yourself. We don't need any more critical language. We don't need any more overwhelm. We don't need any more pressure. Just be gentle with yourself through this process, because once again, this is about honoring something within, and that's precious.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And take care of you.
Take care
That
of
pretty
you.
much sums it up. Take care of you.
Take care of you. And know that it's not too late. Whatever the thing is,
Mm.
you're not,
Yeah.
it's not too late
It
at
is not.
all. It is not too late. And um I wanted to share this, even though we're closing. Someone sent me a line dance to learn. And I was like, how am I learn these crazy line dances? And I put it on. I'm serious. I was like, it's a cowboy line dance or something. I was like, okay, we're going to get ready for the little line dance. So I put it on, and everybody in that video was like over the age of 60. I was like, are they joking with me? And when I tell you they was moving their ass, like they were doing it, and they were then the count, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get, oh, okay, okay, okay. But I was so encouraged because there were two young people in the front, but everybody else was 50 plus, and they were moving. So I was like, I'm looking at them going, okay, this is a sign. Okay. But anyway, I just wanted to say that you can find the inspiration anywhere. And
Anywhere.
I really appreciate you all, and I'm so glad that you all were here, and that we have some great reminders that we can do all these good hard things. There's some wonderful little comments I want to make sure to acknowledge. Tracy, thank you. Excellent talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kim, thank you. Thank you. Great reminders. Yes, thank you so much. Gina, thank you. All great. Definitely great conversations, and definitely to remember to not do all the things, people. It's not worth it at all. At all. Okay, I just want to leave you all with um, this little quote that I found on LinkedIn from Black women education leaders. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Please, if you find this content to be of any use to yourself, share it with other sisters. I am trying to grow my subscription. I'm trying to get to 200. And of course, when I get to 200, I'm going to be trying to get to 300. So please share with others, send this out, invite them. I will be here next Wednesday at 8 p.m. And this conversation will be posted for replays. Thank you again. And remember to, I'm going to cheers you all with some water because, of course, I'm coughing. But next week I'll be. Oh, and I also have, as I'm cheering with water, I'm also cheering with my de-alcohol wine. You can go back and look at that video from last week. It was pretty good. This is the end of the Chardonnay that is 0% alcohol. And still good, not fully flat. Cheers, you all. Thank you. All right.